r/ask Reddit. What is the worst situation you've ever been in that was unquestionably your fault? Like and subscribe and leave a comment with your thoughts down below. Now let's get started. I've told this one before, but it's worth a revisit. Back in the floppy disk, pre-internet days of computers, I was tasked by my job to do a software installation on board a Coast Guard icebreaker. I flew from Ottawa to Halifax, and then I caught a taxi to CFB Shearwater, from where a Twin Otter flew me 100 kilometers north to a town on the border of Quebec and Labrador. From there, I was flown by helicopter to do an at-sea landing on the icebreaker. I went down to the engine control room, where my computer was located, and laid out the disks. Disk 1, Disk 2, Disk 3, Disk 4, Disk 6. Disk 5 was still in my computer back in Ottawa. I was really drunk and challenged my brother to throw a dart at my hand at a bar. I placed it on a dartboard, thinking this would make me look like a badass. He proceeded to hit my hand several times, drawing a little blood, but nothing serious at the time. Over the next few days, my finger swells up, and it turns out to be a bone infection. Ended up practically bedridden for almost 3 months with a PICC line, administering powerful antibiotics into my arm and heart. This was right after passing the bar and getting a really good firm job, which ended up falling through. It's not that terrible of a situation, but it was extremely awkward. There was a kid in my high school class that had the same glasses as me. They were made out of a pretty flexible material so they wouldn't break. He did not know this, so I informed him. I even demonstrated on his glasses by twisting them. Look how far they can bend. Snap. Oh shit. I snapped his glasses clean in half. My bad. Almost dying from getting stuck in self-bondage. It doesn't get more unquestionably my fault than tying myself up when I was the only one home for a week and overestimating my ability to get out, and not setting up a backup escape and spending hours fearing I would die. We had a new wine cellar installed in our store, and I had to grab a few bottles from there. I tried flicking the light switch to no avail, so I spammed a button next to it thinking that it might be how we turned the lights on now. A few minutes later, I was leaving the beer box, and some cops were waiting at the door. They asked me if anyone else was in there. I said no. They proceeded to unholster their pistols and clear the area. I went up to the front and my brother was unfathomably angry at me. The button was our new silent alarm. The cops laughed at me while my brother chewed me out. I apologized to them for the trouble and he told me, "Don't be sorry for them, you just gave them free training and cost me hundreds." The cops proceeded to laugh even more vigorously after that. I felt so stupid and bad for my brother. Childhood me's worst situation was I held a remote control car over my friend's sister's head. I turned it on and watched as the tires started spinning in her hair. I think I was 10 and caused her to get a boyish haircut to fix the damage. This is the early 90s, by the way. My best friend did that. Turned the car on his sister's head, and obviously it got all tangled. "It's okay, Mom, I'll just undo it." Puts the car in reverse and makes the mess infinitely worse. Poor girl. In the 1986, my best friend and I, we were 16 to 17 years old, were bored and decided to see what we could put in the microwave oven and what it would do. We knew metal was bad, so we didn't do that. but we tried marshmallows, candy, a Lego minifigure, and so on. We heard that an egg was bad and would explode. After some debating, we sealed the egg in a heavy glass casserole dish, tied the handles together with a rubber band, and turned it on. 1 minute later, nothing. 2 minutes later, nothing. 3 minutes later, nothing. At about the 4-minute mark, we discussed the "what do you mean the firecracker doesn't explode" scenarios. And then suddenly, it was a stack of wicker paper plates holding on top of the microwave that went everywhere. The explosion caused a heavy 1970s era radar range microwave oven to hop a few inches off the counter. The door was blown open, and steam and smoke went everywhere. We unplugged the microwave and assessed the damage. The glass lid of the casserole dish with the glass knob on top had smashed through the roof and dented the outer metal sheeting in the microwave. The dish was not broken, but rubber bands had been ripped apart. There were minuscule crumbs of yellow egg powder peppered everywhere. Some were steaming or smoking, and we assumed the sudden drop in pressure when the egg exploded had the egg bits go from a gaseous state to a solid almost instantly, kind of like from a starch from a popcorn kernel. We laughed, coming down from the fright of the sudden explosion. But when we cleaned up, we found that the top of the oven had been heavily damaged by the casserole dish lid. So after some discussion, I said I'd take the blame because I had a job and could pay for a new microwave, which in those days was about $200 for a similar size. My parents will go for that, she assured me. That old microwave was cruddy anyway, lots of cold spots. Well, her mom wasn't happy, but agreed with our retribution as fair. Her dad, on the other hand, was furious. I can't say he overreacted. We caused a major explosion in the family kitchen, putting ourselves in danger and breaking his microwave when it was common knowledge not to put an egg in there. He refused to take a new microwave, but instead said my punishment was to pay for repairing the old one. As the weeks went on, he was turned down by every repair shop in town. The microwave was too old, the magnetron tube was no longer made, and the model he had was rated as unsafe years earlier because it leaked radiation. That used to be a thing with older microwaves. The cost of repairing this would not be worth it. Get a new microwave. "Let him buy us a new one," his wife demanded. "That old thing never worked right. We can finally have a modern one that works." "No, he must repair the old one," he would reply stubbornly. Somehow, somewhere, he found someone who would repair it for $75. We think they just swapped the microwave for a similar 1970s era microwave, because it was a lighter color and the door opened in the other direction. But he demanded to be paid the $75, handing me the invoice with a smug look. So I paid it. "You're an idiot," his wife said, and then just let it drop. "Yeah, of course. Let's keep the radiation-leaking microwave. What could go wrong?" No specific situation, but I've recently come to the realization that almost all of the "I had no control over that" type of scenarios I've confronted myself with over the years to excuse problematic situations were, in reality, my own doing entirely. I'm older now, and not really much wiser, but at least I've got a change in my perspective on what is my fault. It's entirely liberating to have that new perspective instead of playing victim all the damn time, which is incredibly tiring and depressing. Probably way off course for what OP was asking, but I think it's at least tangentially related. And as far as the OP's question is concerned, likely a DUI in '98 was my worst error. Young and stupid. Second to that would be picking up smoking, although I am today 1 month smoke-free. Congratulations! falling out of the top of my bunk bed on a basketball booze weekend when being absolutely blackout drunk, which would cost me about 2,000 euros of dental costs. That wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was telling my father what happened, and the look of disgust he had on his face. Stuff like that had happened before, and he was kind of sick with it. The look of disappointment on your parents' face is a bad one. Will always stay with me. Actually, narrator here. Actually, when I was a kid, like 5 or so, I fell out of my top bunk onto like a concrete floor. My brother woke up after hearing the smack of me falling on the floor. And he's like, "Oh no! Julius offed himself!" He ran and got my grandma, and they were all freaking out and thought I was dead. And the best part, apparently, was when I was waking up, I'm like, "Why are you all yelling? I'm freaking sleepy." And just went back to sleep on the floor. Yeah, I was a pretty durable kid. I had just come up to spend the summer with my girlfriend, who was long distance at the time. She and 2 of her good friends who I didn't know well had just moved into this beautiful new apartment that was totally a steal for 3 college students. I had barely been there 3 days and were rushing around the spacious kitchen because we were making dinner and cleaning, getting ready for a party we were holding later that night. At some point, my girlfriend passes me in the kitchen and shoves her new tea kettle in my hands, telling me to make some tea. So I obediently stick the kettle on the glass-topped stove and turn the burner up to high before going back to what I was doing. It only takes a few minutes before I realize something is terribly wrong. The house is filling up with foul-smelling smoke, and it's irritating our eyes and throats. I'm starting to cough. What's going on? Suddenly I hear my girlfriend yell, "Oh my god, OP, why would you do this?" I look over and find that she's yelling and it's the source of the smoke. The new tea kettle she just gotten was an electric tea kettle that was meant to be placed on a base, not on the stove. The bottom of the tea kettle was covered in rubbery plastic, which was now melting all over the new glass stovetop in the apartment that we had only lived in about a week, and everyone was choking on toxic plastic fumes. We had to open every window in the house and go on deck to wait until the smoke cleared out. The kettle was beyond destroyed, and her friends that I barely knew were freaking out, thinking that I've ruined the stove, and that they've lost their security deposits already. I ended up having to drive to the store to get some stovetop cleaner and spent a good hour scraping off the charred plastic bits. Then I had to go buy my girlfriend a new kettle. It was the least I could do. I was so humiliated I cried all the way to the store, thinking I screwed up everything for her and her friends, who I would be living with all summer, and was worried they would hold it against me. It was the worst. When I was 10, I was playing Skipping Stones with a friend, a game where we tried to match the other person's number of bounces of a stone across a road. And I smashed a car window. I ran, I hid, I got caught. I had to pay for the window with all the money I had. It was 27, not a lot, but when you get $1 a week pocket money, and next day the new Pokemon comes out for the Game Boy costing $28, it was a lot. I resumed saving, and to this day it has been the worst situation I have ever been in, and I have no defense for getting into it. After working an 18-hour day of building and scaffolding, I was driving a truck away from the site and drove it into a kid's sandpit next to a playground that was next to our building area. In the end, we had a bunch of other colleagues come and pull the truck out at 10 p.m., and the process took 2 hours. Everyone I worked with was obviously very angry at me, but were making jokes and stuff, so I didn't feel like an even bigger piece of garbage. In hindsight, it was funny. At the time, not so much. And that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you are updated with more videos, and leave a comment with your thoughts or stories down below. I will see you all next time. Hasta la pasta.